Sure they are. You don't have to do it.
He told me that one. He told me one. Thing that in those days.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Judson Memorial Church. How are you doing? It is wonderful to see so many smiling faces in this room. It's wonderful to smell the amazing food that's gathering in the back. If we have not met, or you could use the reminder, my name is Micah, and I have the honor of saying that I'm the senior minister here at Judson, along with all the other wonderful ministers here in the congregation. And happy Easter. If it is your first time in this space and you're a little worried about what's going on sitting at these tables, I hope that you know that you are more than welcome to share in our shared meal later on after the service. Even if it is your first time ever, you don't know a soul, we will get to know you around the table. And we'll even talk about the power of a table later on in this service. I also see that we have several little ones in the space, so please, little ones, this is audience participation time. Make noise. We love it. It will help us feel resurrected today. So welcome to our littlest ones in the back over there, Oakley over here. I cannot wait to hear your little screams and cries. I'm so excited. We also start the service here by turning to that camera and waving hello to the Judson diaspora who are joining us under the facilitation of Reverend Matthew Nelson. Matthew, thank you for facilitating that space, and welcome all. We feel our tables stretching all the way to where you are and hope that you have something wonderful to eat. A few logistical things before we get to the deep spiritual things. I hear that we are out of bulletins. That's amazing. I'm so happy to be out of bulletins. That means that there are more people here than we expected. Melissa Jameson, the amazing assistant next door in our office, is currently printing out bulletins. Give her a round of applause. And she will bring them to the front here, and I'll make an announcement as soon as I have them, and we will have a moment where we get them to whoever needs them. Until then, please feel free to share them with somebody that you're sitting next to, and also such amazing technology that we have. You can actually go to judson.org if you want to, hit worship, and it takes you to the worship page, and the bulletin is like magically there. I'm showing my age by saying that, that amazes me. It is right there. You can read it on your screen, and I promise to not call you out during the sermon if you are looking down at your screen. Also, there is an amazing gift that Henco Espag has given to our community. So today, this entire service is wrapped up in the shape of a cantata. If you did not grow up in the church world and you are wondering what a cantata is basically a song cycle that takes us through some liturgical beats of this service. It is called Plenty of Room, and it is housed on maybe the 4th page of your bulletin. So the libretto there is there so that you can make sure that you don't miss a word as it's being sung by our amazing choir and by our amazing soloists. So round of applause for our amazing soloists and choir and Henco as we prepare to enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I invite you to just settle for a moment as we acknowledge the first peoples of this land. We gather today on land that is the ancestral home of the Munsee Lenape tribe, of the Lenni Lenape people. We acknowledge these people of the Stony Country and decry the unjust taking of their Lenape hoking. To acknowledge well and move beyond ceremony to reciprocity, we commit to softening and expanding ourselves in order to better understand our place on this land. We commit to making meaningful connections between the original people and their ancestral land in order to counteract the myth-spinning systems in which we exist today, including white supremacy, Christian supremacy, and settler colonialism. And we commit to counteracting all harm to original peoples that perpetuates a narrative of erasure. If you are listening to those words and wondering how Judson actually aims to embody those words, you are in luck. Sacred Reckonings, our cohort that is actively helping Judson to move into being an anti-racist and decolonized church, is bringing in a new group. So if you'd like to find me after the service, I should be right around this corner right here. I will gladly connect you to the amazing folks that are doing that Sacred Reckonings work. And now, I invite you to settle even more deeply into this space as we enjoy the first 2 movements of Plenty of Room.
Choices destroy or create. We hear the voices destroy or create. Stuck in the middle of a half-baked holy war. Don't you want more? Don't you want more? Half empty, half full. Don't you feel the constant pull of all the history that's brought us to this place? Half empty, half full. Don't you feel the constant pull of all the misery that we have yet to face? Tear the cross apart. Take this cross
We're all looking for a savior, or at least someone who knows their way around. He was known for bad behavior. They were lost and he was found. So he tried to be a hero, just like Moses, but a bit less insecure. Now we've fallen back to zero. Will he come back? I'm not sure. Doesn't matter anymore. So let's sit down together. Come on, take my hand. We talked about forever, but I understand we might not make it to the promised land. Spent so long in preparation, we were crossing over borders zealously. Now this family separation severs more than him and me. I refuse to be a martyr. I'm a mother and I'll keep this dream alive. I don't beg and I don't barter. We will rise and we'll survive. We will rise and we will thrive. So let's sit down together. Come on, take my hand. We talked about forever, but I understand we might not make it to the promised land. Let's just sit and tell the story. Let's just sit and stay together one more day. It might end in grave or glory. Stories matter either way. Stories matter either way.
Thank you so much. And I also want to point out Brandon Caden Maddox, who is a guest with us today. Brandon, thank you for being with us. You'll see more from Brandon later on. Now I invite you to settle in, and if you feel comfortable in the space, just close your eyes for a moment. And take a deep breath in and let it out. As we join together in our invocation, and I pray for you a prayer for the in-between time. Have you yet realized that this is an actual place? Have you asked it to open for you? Have you invited it to be nothing more than it is? Past the trauma and prior to rebirth, there is a laboratory. It looks like a labyrinth, but enter it anyway. Inside, you will become an inventor. All you have learned has led you here. Don't fear triteness, because truth doesn't have to feel fresh. It just needs to be trusted. Don't try to trick your way out of this tomb. Your only obligations: experiment and allow. Creation often feels like decomposition. Rising often feels like breaking down. Both most often feel like mistakes. Make them. Let history and mystery mingle. Watch wonder erupt from what once was weakness. Wander. Lose the meaningless maps and manuals. You don't have to know what comes next. Witness. Have you yet realized that this is an actual place? Open and invent yourself. The resurrection you think you're waiting for is already at work. Amen. And now please rise in body and/or spirit. And as we prepare to blow the roof off this place with Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, I want whoever needs a bulletin to raise your hands, and I will come to you with my titanium knee and give you a bulletin. I want to see those hands.
The Gospel according to Mark, chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone? Who will roll it for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of them to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for the terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone. They were afraid.
Half empty on the sidelines, never really feeling there, spiraling down while he lifts up the cross he's forced to bear, drowned in deep despair.
Half empty, people broken, scarred and longing to be free. It's all by design that you all feel so far from me. Damn those powers that be. Can't spend all my life just building up walls. Wish I knew what can be rebuilt when empire falls. I've been frightened and half empty for too many years. It's time to fill myself with something more than fears. Half empty, I've been sitting by and watching heroes fly. And when heroes falter, dreams can simply die. Time to testify.
Half empty, we get hung up by horizons we can't see. But if we just add some passion to this mystery, we will make history. And spend all your life just building up walls. It's time to build what can be built when empire falls. We can be more than half empty in these coming years. Let's make our love more fierce than all our fears.
this one. Ancient Testimony 2, The God Who Only Knows 4 Words by Hafiv, rendered by Daniel Landisky. Every child has known God, not the God of names, not the God of don'ts, not the God who ever does anything weird, but the God who only knows 4 words and keeps repeating them, saying, "Come, dance with me. Come dance."
Thank you so much, Brandon. And if you haven't ever met Brandon, you don't know that he is an amazing ASL interpreter as well. So we are about to collaborate. Would you please pray with me? May I say what I need to say, and may you hear what you need to hear. Amen. Thank you, Oakley. It's exactly what I'm banking on. Okay, so big disclaimer before I dive into this little talk. I am not a scientist, and I am not a gardener. I am merely a pastor who wanders around looking for good metaphors to help drive my points home, and I'm about to use the practice of composting to legitimize my liturgical leaps. So scientists and gardeners, you have been warned. There is an enthusiastic amateur loose among you who is eager to proselytize about composting and recycling. And speaking of recycling, I want to start off today by recycling for all of us my favorite Judson myth. Now, it's not the one that you might be thinking about. I don't know exactly how this myth started, but it involves Judson's beautiful, rickety communion table, which now is housed in the northwest corner there. You probably passed it on your way in. It is masquerading as a landing place for piles of postcards and propaganda now. When I first showed up at Judson, there was a rumor going around that this unendingly inviting table had been constructed using the wood of a huge cross that used to hang at the front of this sanctuary, our meeting room. So imagine that there used to be this gigantic, imposing cross hanging right behind me for you to stare at as your mind wandered during this sermon. And now, imagine that gigantic, imposing cross was torn down, taken apart, and refashioned into that very table that has so often held communion elements, or at least now holds information about exciting upcoming programs. Back when this myth first came into my life, I remember being astonished by this perfect image. A divisive, history-soaked symbol that has simultaneously freed and oppressed so many for centuries, being dismantled and reshaped into a symbol of community and nourishment and the radical collectivist roots of Christianity. This myth was a major part of my head over heels fall into love with this building and with its traditions and with its people. I was a true believer, a wide-eyed witness, an eager evangelist for this story. So, with deep, continuing regret, I must alert all newcomers and anyone who has internalized this myth that it has been debunked over and over again by our in-house Judson Snopes historians. Our communion table was not, in fact, constructed from the pieces of our old cross. But on this Easter Sunday, I want to focus on how this debunked but continuously recycled myth can still create such an activating image for us. And I want you to ponder a question for yourself. What crosses are you carrying that could be softened into tables? What did you walk into this place weighing down on your shoulders with? And how can that be softened into something else, a soft place for you to land? At Judson, we've spent the past few weeks reshaping the season of Lent into a season of, say it with me, relenting. Okay, we've been exploring the radical power of softness in a hardening world. For 4 Sundays, we've focused on softening our hearts, and softening our gazes, softening our inner critics, and softening our outer critics. We then spent Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday softening our voices so that silence could enter the space with us. And now, on Easter Sunday, we are going to focus on softening our landing. And here's what I mean by softening the landing. In a world where crucifixions continue right outside our door and all over the world, what does it mean to realize that we haven't actually yet reached resurrection? What continuing action does that realization inspire in you? It's time to get rid of the phallic, flaccid, penetrating, false patriarchal promises of easy resurrection and lean into the yonic softening that our continuing crucifying habits require of us. So if you were here 2 weeks ago, you already heard today's first ancient testimony, but Bill read it beautifully again today, because in a world where we still haven't quite yet committed to embodying actual collective liberation, this little snippet from the Gospel according to Mark feels truer to me than any of the stories that end with an actually resurrected Jesus. And reminder, this is the actual original end of the Gospel according to Mark. Eventually, other writers came in and they added some extra fluff to try to hammer home the point that Jesus was actually truly back from the dead. But the OG Mark ending is exactly what we read in this story today. It doesn't end with resurrection. It actually ends with the phrase, "They were afraid." And I don't know about you, but right now, over 2,000 years later, I am afraid. I know that you're all seeing the same stories screaming out at you from your screens, but I need to name just a few of them today. I cannot believe that we went through the entire fall, and then the entire season of Advent, and now the entire season of Lent, and we still do not have a ceasefire in Gaza. And the fact that our government is funding the continued slaughtering of tens of thousands of people is unconscionable. The crucified Jesus is in the faces of every innocent victim and every hostage forgotten in the wake of empire's cruel hunger for deadly dominance. Okay, good. I cannot believe that in a year when International Trans Day of Visibility lines up so gorgeously with Easter Sunday, that there are elected officials in this country making dehumanizing declarations about our trans and non-binary siblings, especially when trans and non-binary people literally model for all of us how to embody the continuing self-actualization that all of us desperately need. Okay. I cannot believe that there is a Christian nationalist Bible being sold for $59.99 with a U.S. flag on the cover, and that people are buying it, and that they are buying its deadly anti-gospel. But then again, I can believe all of it, because empire has always snaked its way in. It is always ready to shackle us with myths that negate the empowering stories that might actually lead us to collective liberation. The Gospel of Mark ends in fear, and we are afraid now. But maybe we can compost this fear into something new. You see what I did there? Get ready for pseudoscience here. The Holy Trinity of Holy Week for me isn't about resurrective certainty. It's about collective creativity. The Holy Trinity of Holy Week is this. You get the trauma of Good Friday in the cross and the nails. You get the emptiness of Holy Saturday with the community hiding for fear that empire would come for them next. And then you get the mystery of Easter Sunday in the empty tomb, the rolled away stone, the suggestion of something altogether invigorating happening. Trauma, emptiness, mystery. And where's the resurrection? Will you tell me? The Gospel of Mark ends in trauma, emptiness, and mystery. And right now, all three of those things are more energizing for me than resurrective certainty could ever be. Because let's be clear, resurrective certainty has given rise to the oppression and dismissal and death of so many in the centuries following Jesus' execution. Resurrective certainty often destroys. But something beautiful happened. Something beautifully creative happened in the scary space between the historical events of Jesus' life and the writing of the Gospel of Mark, and then again between the crafting of Mark's Gospel and the crafting of the other Gospels. This is what happened. Stories started to be told. Myths started to be created. Stories of life were shared, and those stories continued to be created, and they continued to swirl and reshape and adjust according to what would be most liberating and activating for each of the budding early Jesus movement communities. You see, empire thought that it could cut all the oxygen off by killing one guy. And instead, empire violence activated the Jesus movement even more. But luckily, the Jesus movement didn't simply disseminate myths, because let's be clear about this too. Myths, when combined with empire, get mangled if they are simply allowed to be myths. Myths can become dangerously paralyzing and violently oppressive. Myths lie at the root of mass murders and the ideas of certain lands promised to only certain people, holy wars, state violence, and isms and phobias of all kinds. Tribes who are not careful become empires. And make no mistake, we are always this close to easing into empire's lies. Potentially good myths only prove their worth as they continue to oxygenate and activate more interconnected justice-making in the world for all, equity. Those Jesus followers didn't stay nailed to that hill like empire wanted them to. They didn't stay trapped in that tomb like empire wanted them to. They didn't stay stagnated by empire's inviting oppression. So what did the Jesus movement do? They composted. They took their history of unresolved trauma, they mixed that with the mystery of unfettered hope, and they composted it all into narratives that would activate them as they became themselves. I'm not a scientist, but the internet tells me that this kind of action is called aerobic composting. Actively churning the detritus so that oxygen continues to flow through the decomposing muck and make it all into fiercely fertile soil. There's a reason why in some of the myths the resurrected Jesus was mistaken for a gardener. Brandon's up here doing the gardener's dance, and just like Hafiz says, this is meant to be participatory. That's aerobic composting. The Jesus community took the trauma of Good Friday, the emptiness of Holy Saturday, and the mystery of Easter Sunday, and then they added one more oxygenating agent. The Thursday mandate that we commemorate every time we gather around table. Maundy Thursday wasn't simply the night that Jesus was betrayed. I know that that's what kind of rises to the top. That's what we tend to remember there. But it's not just the night he was betrayed. It was the night that Jesus gave his followers a new mandate. Maundy has the same root as mandate. Maundy Thursday, mandate Thursday, sitting around a communal table, a table made of wood. The same splintered material on which he would be crucified, Jesus ordered, implored, begged his followers to love one another as he had loved them. And this mandate distilled justice-making and collective liberation down to their essential root, hope-fueled relational love. Not easy love, but active love. This is the sort of complicated simplicity that the entire Jesus movement got behind before we got back in bed with empire and started to muck it all up again. Because that's what human beings do, right? We muck it all up. But if we allow ourselves, we can turn away from the mucking it up, and we can remember. And remembering isn't passive. It's the origin story of the Jesus movement. There is no way to get rid of trauma or emptiness or mystery. They all revisit us on a regular basis. But after Friday and Saturday and Sunday had passed, the Jesus followers dismantled the cross. They dismembered it. And they composted it. They remembered it into a communion table. They didn't do this literally, just as we haven't done that literally here at Judson. But the metaphor happened. And the metaphor is still happening. And if we're willing, it will continue to happen. Crosses cannot be denied. They cannot be destroyed. And the empires out there and the empires in here want you to believe that these crosses cannot be reconfigured, but crosses can be dismembered and then remembered into communion tables that absorb our pain and our emptiness and our questions about life and death deeply into their makeup and their soft surfaces where we meet one another. The empires out there and the empires in here are desperate for us to forget how to make a table and expand the table and care and tend the table. And these tables aren't just symbols. I know these tables are plastic. We've covered them with paper so that they can pretend to be wood. And these tables hold within them the memory and reality of trauma and emptiness and mystery, and they also hold that aerobic, composting, oxygenating agent. Hope. Hope is the oxygen that the empires out there and the empires in here and the outer critics and the inner critics that you hear in your mind and in your heart don't want you to hear. They don't want you to breathe that oxygenating aerobic agent. These tables don't deny the fear. They reimagine it into ferocity and fabulousness. Don't you want to be fierce and fabulous? They recreate. These tables resurrect. They reshape us into a continuing revolution against the crosses we construct. So whether Jesus actually resurrected or not, I don't really care. A community remembered itself and rose up and resisted the easy empire answers of deathly domination and separation. They softened the hardwood into fresh table surfaces, climbed on top of those tables, and freaking danced. And we haven't stopped dancing. Here at Judson, we are not only calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. We are calling for a ceasefire as the bare minimum move to launch actual liberation. We not only welcome LGBTQIA folks, we actively celebrate LGBTQIA folks as literally the key to our liberation, our collective liberation. I'm done with welcoming and affirming churches. We need celebrating churches. My goodness, we not only counter Christian nationalism, we are actively composting and co-creating a hope-fueled, liberating alternative to Christian nationalism. We are not just against something, we are something. We are a community of radical hope. And we have so much more dancing to do. So, What crosses are you carrying that could be softened into tables? Do you love your neighbor as you love yourself? And first things first, have you even stopped long enough to love yourself enough to begin to love anyone else? Before you try to resurrect yourself, can you remember yourself? And if you're having trouble doing it, if you're still trapped in the tomb of trauma and emptiness, if you're still stuck in the stories that someone, maybe even you, told yourself about yourself, can you commit to coming to the table so that we can remind you that before you get to resurrection, you've got to have a simple surrection. And do you know what surrection means? It just means rise. Rise in body or spirit, body and spirit, whatever way you can rise. Before we get to a resurrection, do what that community did, surrect, rise. So can you rise? I'm not asking you to deny anything, but those crosses you carry want to keep you nailed up on those hills you've decided that you must die on. And it is not true. So unhook yourself. Remember that warped wood into a table for you and for all. And for God's sake, rise like you've got hope oxygenating your every move. Nice. The surrection is happening. And if you are still having a little bit of difficulty believing, I'd like to invite Mary Magdalene up to the front to share with us her aerobic composting. Come on up here, folks.
I can say I've never been the type to pray. I've simply banked upon my tendency to make it. The only way I seem to worship nowadays is just to shut my mouth and shut my mind and fake it. So I show up, sip from the cup of life and never feel a thing, although I keep pretending. My performance proves my spirit moves in ways that are mysterious, but everyone's so serious, and I don't know, and I can't see why I can't see, but when I see you're just like me, I find it easier to believe. I need a shrink, or maybe just a stiffer drink to keep from sinking all the way into abstention. When I think it brings me to the brink of feeling something that is not unlike dementia. I toss and turn, I rage and burn with anger and anxiety, propelled by all the piety I find exists in folded fists, and I get analytical, or maybe just too critical, and I don't know. I can't see why I can't see, but when I see you're just like me, I find it easier to believe. Maybe we're beyond all that bull that seems insincere, and maybe here, as long as we're questioning answers, we'll answer the questions we fear. I want to quit and go and hide behind my wit and wait for someone to come stroke my fragile ego. But I'll admit, I'd wager at the heart of it, it's just a feeling that we know is that we don't know. So here's the deal, let's share a meal, and maybe while we masticate, we'll find a way to satiate our hungry heads with wine and bread, and and take this opportunity to form a faith community where we don't know why we don't know. And we can't see why we can't see, but when we see we all agree or disagree, maybe agree, never agree. We'll find it easier to believe. We'll find it easier to believe.
Thank you so much, Emma. Now is the moment in our service where we send good old-fashioned baskets around the space, like good church people. If you would like to support the programs of this church with cash, check, you can put something in that basket if you want. There are also multiple ways to give online that are listed in your bulletin, and folks in the diaspora, you will find all the ways listed in your chat there. But there are also many, many ways to give to Judson. And by now, many of you know that. But if it's your first time here, know that whatever gift you've brought into this space today, it will be a blessing to this community. So we welcome gifts of all kinds. And now, the exciting conclusion of Plenty of Room.
Across apart, but don't
More applause for these amazing Judson choristers, for Brandon, for all of our soloists, for the amazing Henco. Thank you all so much for bringing us into Easter with such gorgeous aplomb. And now you all get one more chance to sing today. Please rise in body and or spirit as we prepare to build a longer table. But before then, this service might be ending, but our service in the world continues. On Sunday, we dipped our palms in glitter and decided to commit to leaving a trail of justice making wherever we go. We then journeyed through Holy Week, moving through the mandate of Maundy Thursday, moving through the horror of Good Friday, moving through the emptiness of Holy Saturday. And now we are here. Even if you don't feel the resurrection, surrect today. This service is always moving with you as you build a longer table into every single thing you do. Thank you for all you do in the world. I can't wait to keep dancing with all of you. Amen. Happy Easter, everyone. And I say to especially the folks who are new here, we're about to chow down. You do not need to run away. We hope that you will share this table and make it a home for you, even if you're brand new. Folks, even though we are not going to do celebrations and concerns because it's Easter, I would love to see the diaspora projected on the wall if we can, and have them join us for a moment while we gather our food. And we love chaos here at Judson. I like to say, if you don't like organized religion, come to Judson because we're disorganized religion. So, we are about to just form a line and get some food. I ask you, let our elders get their food first. If you do not want to identify as an elder, you can wait. But if you are an elder and feel that you'd like to grab some food before it gets real hectic back there, we would love for you to get your things to eat and sit down at the table, and then we will follow suit. Thank you all for being here. I can't wait to meet you at the table. Hi, everybody.